Hey there, in this video we're going to cover the perfect back workout to hit the lats, the Teres Major, the Rhomboids, the traps, the posterior delt, the Teres Minor, and Infraspinatus to help you build muscle mass and stay injury free. And we're going to go over 7 exercises, and we're going to talk a lot about proper form for each of those exercises.
The first exercise we're going to do here are lat pull downs, and we want to hit the lats and Teres Major as much as possible here. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do a mid grip for our pull downs, so we get that hybrid of shoulder adduction and shoulder extension. Now when doing this, you want to make sure that the head doesn't move back, so we don't want to get that excessive cervical extension. We don't want that lower back to arch, so we don't want to get that excessive lumbar flexion, and we don't want those shoulder blades to elevate, so we don't want to get that excessive scapula elevation. We just want those shoulders to move down while the shoulder blades move down too. So this rep right here is an example of getting too much lumbar extension. You don't want to arch that lower back like that. You don't want to arch that neck like this here. Do not try to reach that chin over the bar, and do not shrug those shoulders up toward the ears like I'm doing here, but instead keep those shoulders down and away from the ears like right here. So notice how those shoulders move down and away from the ears, and then as I come up here, yeah, the shoulders start to point up more because they have to, but those shoulders stay down and away from the ears and don't shrug up toward the ears. They just point upward. Now the upper back can arch like it's doing right here. It's just very important that the lower back stays straight so you don't make that erector spinae tight and overactive. The reason why the upper back can arch is because it'll help you keep those shoulder blades down, and it'll also help you move those shoulder blades together, so it'll help you get scapular depression and scapula retraction, and the thoracic will tend to extend as those shoulder blades move down and move together. The next exercise you're going to do here is a close grip row. So with this one, you can do it with a cable, or you can do it with a machine like this. You can do it standing or seated. The purpose of this exercise is to get the shoulders to extend. So we'll be hitting the lats, Teres Major, lower and mid traps, and rhomboids. But the key thing here is to make sure that those elbows come right against the side, that those elbows don't move out wide, and that you get those shoulders all the way back, and that you squeeze those shoulder blades all the way together. So right here we're getting shoulder extension and we're getting scapula retraction. Do not shrug those shoulders up toward the ears like I'm doing right here, and then do not extend that neck back like I'm doing right here. Make sure that neck is straight and not arched, and then do not arch that lower back like I'm doing right here. Make sure that lower back is straight. Do not move those elbows out wide like I'm doing right there. Make sure those elbows are tucked in and almost touching the side of the body as the elbows and shoulders move back. Make sure the neck's straight and the lower back straight throughout the entire range of motion. The upper back can arch a little bit to help get those shoulder blades down and back, and then make sure those shoulder blades are down so those shoulders are away from the ears throughout the entire range of motion, and that they don't shrug up toward the ears. And also make sure as you go back that the shoulders move all the way back, and that those shoulder blades squeeze all the way together, and then make sure that the elbows don't move out wide, but that they come down against the side as the shoulders move back and move back with the shoulders. The next exercise we're going to do here is a wide grip row. So the purpose of this one here is to get those shoulders to move back through shoulder horizontal abduction, and to also get scapula retraction too. This will mainly hit the rhomboids, the lower and mid traps, the posterior delt, and the Teres Minor and Infraspinatus will assist on this lift. The only difference between this one here and the close grip row is that for here, the wide grip row, those elbows need to move out wide. So you're gonna want to grip out further so those elbows can move out wide. And what you cannot do is let those elbows drop. You can also do this one with a cable as long as you're able to move those elbows out wide, and again you can perform this one standing or seated. Again, do not move that neck back like I'm doing right here. Make sure that neck is straight throughout the entire range of motion. Do not arch that lower back like I'm doing right there. Make sure that lower back is straight throughout the entire range of motion. Do not shrug those shoulders up toward the ears like I'm doing right there. Make sure those shoulders are down and away from the ears, and do not let that upper back hunch over like I'm doing right there. Make sure that upper back, the thoracic, is slightly arched, and do not let those elbows drop down like that, like in a close grip row. Keep those hands out wide and move those elbows out wide, just like I'm doing right there. The next exercise we're going to do here is a reverse fly with the cables and an isometric hold. So the purpose of this exercise here is to focus more on getting scapula depression as we retract those shoulder blades as much as possible, and really focus on keeping that lumbar straight, because as the scapula depresses, the thoracic will arch, which is fine, but when that thoracic arches, the lumbar will tend to arch too. So the purpose of this exercise here is to strictly focus on form. So I highly recommend you just use those 2.5 pound weights with the cables, and then just really focus on form. Track your progress based off form, not off the weight. For this exercise here, for the wide grip row, you can focus more on the weight with that one, but this one you need to just only focus on the form, because that's the purpose of this exercise here. We're also really focusing a lot on the scapula retraction. It's going to help a lot with posture here, because those shoulder blades are not moving from protraction to retraction. They're just staying retracted the whole time. This exercise will hit all the same muscles as the wide grip row, the lower and mid traps, the rhomboids, the posterior delt, and then the Teres Minor and Infraspinatus will assist. But this one here, we're strictly focusing a lot more on form. So that's the difference with this one here. Now, do not let those shoulders shrug up toward the ears like I'm doing right there. Keep those shoulders down and away from the ears. Do not arch that lower back like I'm doing right here. Keep that lower back straight the whole time. Do not move that head back like I'm doing right there. Keep that neck straight the whole time. So neck straight and lower back straight. Do not let that upper back, the thoracic, hunch over like I'm doing right here. Keep that upper back straight, or keep it slightly arched, so curving the other way, not rounding forward, but curving back slightly. Do not let those hands drop down like I'm doing right there. Keep those hands out wide, so straight out to the side like I'm doing right there. Those arms should be parallel to the ground, not pointing toward the ground. So this right here is a close-up view of what it should look like. Just hold it like this right here. This next exercise we're going to do here is a single arm isometric hold pull down with a cable, and the purpose of this exercise here is to get more scapula depression in your posture and in your form. This is going to be extremely important when it comes to training your back and any muscle. If you can get more scapula depression, it'll be a lot easier to build more muscle mass. So how you want to perform this exercise here is focus as much as possible at getting that shoulder further away from the ear, closer to the hip. So focus on keeping that shoulder pointing horizontal, so it's pointing parallel to the ground. So from the shoulder to the elbow, that humeral bone is parallel to the ground, but the scapula, so that shoulder blade, we're trying to move that as low as possible. So do this one with very light weight and just focus as much as possible at moving that shoulder blade lower. So you can see here how that shoulder's further away from the ear, and that the upper traps are kind of pointing downward more rather than pointing straight out ahead, because we're getting that scapula depression there. Do not shrug that shoulder up toward the ear like I'm doing right there, and do not point that shoulder way down like I'm doing right there. Just keep that humeral bone parallel to the ground. Do not extend that head back like that. Keep that neck straight, and then do not turn that neck to the side like that. Do not move that ear closer to the shoulder. That's not going to help us get more scapula depression. Keep the head pointing straight up. Do not arch that lower back like I'm doing right there. Keep that lower back straight. Don't round that upper back forward like I'm doing right there. Keep that upper back straight and keep those shoulders back. Keep those shoulder blades together and keep that shoulder blade down as low as possible. Really focus on that. Now these last two exercises are going to be pure external rotation of the shoulder. We're going to be isolating a joint action. We're going to really be focusing on hitting the Teres Minor and Infraspinatus. These will also help you stabilize the weights when doing a dumbbell bench press or a dumbbell overhead press. So this exercise that I'm doing right here is mainly going to focus on the Teres Minor. The next one is going to focus more on the Infraspinatus. So when performing this exercise right here, the only thing that happens is the shoulder rotates. Nothing even moves, not even the shoulder. The shoulder doesn't move backward or forward or anything. All the shoulder does is rotate and nothing else moves. Also, I highly recommend doing this exercise with a cable over a band, because with a cable the resistance will be the same throughout the entire range of motion. Now do not extend that elbow like I'm doing right there. Keep that elbow at 90 degrees throughout the entire range of motion and keep that elbow touching the side. Do not move that shoulder back like I'm doing right there. Make sure that the shoulder's only rotating and not moving back. Do not rotate that lower back and hips like I'm doing right there. Make sure they point straight ahead through the entire range of motion. Now this exercise is going to hit the infraspinatus more. This one for the most part's the same as the last exercise we did. The only difference here is that the elbow is not touching the side. The elbow is out wide as far as it can go when performing this exercise. Otherwise, everything else is the same. So in the last exercise, that humeral bone was pointing straight toward the ground. Here, you want to make sure that humeral bone is parallel to the ground throughout the entire range of motion. Do not shrug that shoulder up toward the ear like I'm doing there. Make sure that shoulder is away from the ear. do not move that shoulder back and extend that elbow like I'm doing there. Make sure that elbow's at 90 degrees and that shoulder doesn't move back throughout the entire range of motion. Make sure you don't arch that lower back and arch that neck like I'm doing right there, but keep them straight throughout the entire range of motion. To make things simple, the only movement that happens during this exercise is the shoulder rotates.
Alright, so I know it's a lot here. A quick recap of what we went through is you got your mid-grip pull-downs, your close grip rows, your wide grip rows, your reverse fly isometric hold with the cables, your single arm cable pull-down, that scapula depression, get that shoulder down, and then you got this form of external rotation, and then you got this form of external rotation. I know it's also an overwhelming amount of information on form. So if you struggle with form, go check out my squat form playlist and my upper body fitness assessments playlist to help you fix your form and write out your training program that'll fit your individual needs, that'll help you fix your form. We're all different. We have different individual needs. We all have different misfunctions on our form, so it'll help you fix your misfunctions on your form. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on other videos like this.